after you've bribed, how long can it take you to get feedback?
All right. Thank you so much, Leo. So feedback.
You know, Kenya's in a phase of the old way of doing things where you had paper CVs and things like that. And you see this in newspaper ads, which they say the deadline for applying is on this day.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't really make any sense. If you... Now you're on the internet, you can apply and see the CV immediately.
Absolutely.
And this concept of deadlines is
Doesn't
irrelevant
work.
and is gone in most parts of the rest of the world. And it was to do with the postal system. That doesn't apply anymore in the modern age. And so many employers are still in the habit of letting all these CVs pile up until they hit some sort of deadline. Then they read all the CVs, and there's this aspect of time. On Brighter Monday, if the job's available, it will be on the site. If it's not available, it will not be on the site. And we phone all the advertisers every week to say, are you still looking for applicants? Are you still looking for applicants? And if they're not, we take the job down. And so there's not like some websites where they keep all the jobs forever. When you look at the jobs on our website, you know they're hiring. If they're hiring, apply. It's that simple. Now, to answer the question, how long will it take somebody to read all the CVs? Well, that's a very broad question. It depends on the job, how many CVs they got. But my guess is by the time you read the CVs, invite maybe a bunch of people for interview, a second interview, they interview with some of your colleagues. You know, that's generally a 4 to 6 week process. If you haven't heard within 6 weeks, the likelihood is you haven't got the job.
Okay. So, Larry, I hope you've been answered there. I wanted to get back to the place of how to present your CV, because you're saying it's not about your history, it's about your skills. Perhaps somebody's sitting down there and thinking, okay, so how do I go about it?
Yes, and I should be really clear, it's not about listing a bunch of skills. It's about listing a bunch of things that you have done that prove that you have skills. And so, you know, I'll talk you through the structure of it. You know, an HR person is going to take your CV on email. They're probably going to spend 5 to 7 seconds scanning it, and they'll probably look for 5 or 6 pieces of information only. And that is what your current job title is, who your current employer is, how long you've generally worked for, whether you've got some education. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And it's a very rapid decision in somebody's mind. And if I said to you, CEO of Safaricom, you know exactly who that is, what his experience is. You don't need to see his CV.
No, you're absolutely.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's just that simple. And so you need to try and make sure that those key pieces of information are very visible. And for each of the jobs you've done, you can see the trajectory of somebody's career. You know, if they started off as an actor and then progressed to radio and then progressed to TV, you can see, well, this person actually is going somewhere in life, and you can see the sense of trajectory. If you see them work here for 3 months, then take 9 months off, then work somewhere totally different for 3 months, then take 6 months off, just that structure is going to give you a real colour of somebody's employability. And so you know, when you look at a CV, generally that's how people look at it, very, very fast, and make sure the structure and the history is consistent, and that you can see he was an accountant for 3 years. Before that, he was an intern for 2 years. You immediately get a very clear sense of what this person can actually do, and that's how you demonstrate the skills you have. And you get into the bit where they look at it in more detail and say, okay, he spoke to them. He spoke to these people on the phone every day. He processed these kind of transactions. Therefore, he can do those. He or she can do these things, and that's how you demonstrate the skills. If you write, I have great communication skills. Well, you know, writing on a piece of paper is not a way to prove that you have great communication skills.
That. Yeah. All right. So some of the challenges I'm looking at, perhaps you have a name, and we've been dealing with issues to do with nepotism and tribalism in this country. How do you deal with that? Because you might just have a company going for names that are related to perhaps their tribal affiliations and all that. Do you have such concerns?
Look, I don't think it's correct to say you have a company that would do that. I think possibly in Kenyan society you might have an individual who might do
just
that.
An individual. No?
But I think that's declining. You know, companies and employers are rational actors, and nobody wants to hire somebody who's not good at the job because of their name, compared to somebody who is going to be good at the job regardless of their name. So I think that's a trend that's probably declining, and it reflects the older way of doing things, where you really only had the option of going to people you know. That's going. I think most companies now are in a very competitive environment, both locally, regionally, continentally, and globally, and companies know that they need to get the best people.
Yeah.
And so I think that trend should go, and I would like to see the
So
end of that.
that's not a challenge at all. There's a question here. Somebody says, I have never gotten any replies, never been called for an interview. Are these adverts genuine? I'm highly qualified.
Look, they are genuine. It's very hard. They are genuine.
They're genuine.
It's very hard to know without seeing the person's CV and without understanding whether he or she is applying for relevant jobs or not. We see this sometimes. If I were to put a job set which said Tusker Project Fame writer, how many applications do you think I'd get?
It's a lot.
Many.
Absolutely.
And people apply for jobs out of hope and thinking, well, I might not quite be quite right for the job, but I'll never forgive myself if I just didn't
Just
give it a go.
do it, yeah.
And so you see that. Now, I don't know if this person is doing that, and it's hard to know what the problem is, but if he or she is highly qualified just in education but doesn't have any experience, that's actually quite a hard thing to do, because he's competing with people who've actually done the job, and genuinely experience trumps education. And my advice to anyone starting off in life is try and match experience and qualification. Don't spend your whole life getting qualifications and no experience. Don't spend your whole life getting experience and no qualifications. Try and match it through time. So it's very hard to comment on that particular case. But I wish the person well. Hopefully, I'm sure there'll be something.
Yeah. So perhaps, how do you stand out from the crowd? Because now you're saying you can be well educated, but if you don't balance it with experience, then you might not get that chance. And perhaps we have thousands of such people who are saying, okay, so every time I apply, I'm normally the 100th person, so basically meaning I don't get an opportunity. How do I come to the first person position? Is there a strategy?
Question. So certainly the strategy is sign up for the alerts, get them on your phone, store your CV on the website. So even if you're on a Matatu or somewhere like that, you can just one-click apply, and we will send the CV from the system to the apply. You don't have to load your CV again. Once you've done it once, it's there. And so try and be the first person to apply. Number two is apply for those jobs to which you're relevant. I mean, it sounds pretty obvious.
Yeah, but
as we said before, hope and aspiration come into this thing. Try and be really careful about how you target your applications. I think there are two broad buckets of jobs in all African markets. There's a bunch of jobs. It's very, very hard to find people. And certainly even at BrighterMonday, we want to find web analytics people, usability people. These are quite technical skills from the internet industry, and the internet industry is young, and by definition, anyone who comes and tells us they have 10 years experience in that in Kenya, we won't hire them. And so it's hard to find those people. And so in those sorts of jobs, we do look for potential rather than experience. I think then there's another range of jobs, particularly things like sales, where you just need strong communication skills and a certain kind of attitude. And there's many, many Kenyans. Kenyans are entrepreneurial. Kenyans are salespeople, genuinely. And so that's very, very competitive. So I think in that sense, try and be the first to apply. And we are going to put out a product next year, which is a paid product for job seekers, which will allow them to pin their CV at the top of the application inbox.
Wow.
And they get to choose only 5 jobs a month for which they do that. And the reason we'll only let them do 5 is it will make people really choose quite carefully. And the employers we've talked to about this product are very interested in this product, because it signals to them that the job seekers considered it very, very carefully, and out of the 5,000, they've chosen their job as the one they really, really think is right, and so that will help a match. And we've seen this in other markets. That product gives 15 times the open rate of a CV. And so we're going to price that at around 80 shillings a month, which is very, very low cost by M-Pesa. And so we are trying to solve that problem of giving people products that will enable them to compete a little bit better, get transparency, be among the first, because we can't solve the problem of unemployment and the supply of candidates to the supply of jobs. We can't solve that.
Absolutely. Perhaps let's talk about the successful people. Somebody sent their CV and they got a call. What next? So there.
Look, I've said this before, which is the CV gets you the interview gets you the job. The CV never gets you the job.
Not the CV, the interview.
And so interviews are quite important. I think the first thing to know is it's a two-way process. It's not a one-way process. I think some people go in there thinking, I have to really persuade this person, then I'm going to get the job. And actually, no, it's more of a conversation to see if there's a match. And sometimes people end up working for the wrong kind of people in the wrong kind of job that takes them nowhere in life. And so I think an interview, obviously you need to be able to explain the history of what you've done in a way that demonstrates your communication skills, your personality, your ability to work with other people, your general capability, and your knowledge. You know, can you answer the questions about the area in which you work? Do you know your stuff? And so I think most people sort of know that, but people need to make sure they've got a good story about that. And the best way to answer interview questions is to give an example of where you've done it before.
Wow.
So if you get the question, tell me about your communication skills, don't say they're great.
Give examples, man.
Say, well, you know, I had a really difficult problem and I had to solve it by communicating in this way and it worked and it was successful. Then the person really, really knows this person has done it. They know they've done it. They understand what I'm actually trying to ask them. And so giving an example from the past which answers the question is certainly the best interview strategy.
All right. So as we wrap it up, perhaps tell us a bit about the future of Brighter Monday and perhaps something that you'd really want to share with the people.
Look, I think three things. We're super focused on getting all the jobs. Probably 60 or 70% of our jobs are Nairobi-based, and so we've recently raised a significant amount of money in the billions of shillings of capital, and we certainly intend to invest that more in reaching out to people in other parts of Kenya to get more jobs in Mombasa, more jobs in Kisumu, more jobs in Eldoret, Nakuru, other cities. So certainly we want to get all the jobs. 5,000 jobs is not enough to satisfy the rest. And if you see what we've done in Nigeria, we're hitting 30,000. We're able to get to 30,000 jobs per month in Nigeria. We want to get to the similar numbers here. And in other markets I've worked, you can get up to 200,000-300,000 jobs a month as you build the capability and the trust among employers. And so we're putting a lot of effort into that. I think we're also putting a lot of effort into getting the right talent for the employers, really making ourselves known. And people are starting to see us around town and in other media. And I think the third area of focus is really to build out the tools that actually genuinely help people compete better and actually get a job. It's not a question of just let's have better adverts.
Get a job,
let's get more matches. And so there's a whole range of products that we're building in the technology platform that we have to really help people get ahead and also really help the employers out of the 10 million Kenyans, that's going to be a challenge to pick exactly the right one. And so we're building a bunch of tools to get deeper into that process and really genuinely deliver some value.
All right. Perhaps we could just get that board again so that you can actually go real time even right now. You just need to go to www.brightermonday.co.ke. Let's take a look at that board. www.brightermonday.co.ke. You can also go on Facebook, that's Brighter Monday KE. Okay, so that's all you need to do. Get in there, the instructions are very clear. Get yourself an account and begin the process. And as we say it always, kazi kwako. It's up to you. It's all up to you. Kazi kwako.